All right, so there you have it. Robert Durst testifying on his own behalf in that courtroom in Los Angeles County. And what's interesting about that is that as the time went on, he went on at about 6 o'clock or so. So it's been about an hour and a half. He seemed to be losing it a little bit. He had a lot of charisma early on, seemed to be losing a little bit of energy as he moved forward there, maybe needing a little bit more time to take in what he was hearing. And if you see him looking down, I think he's looking down at a screen. He's hard of hearing. So I think the words are coming up on that screen and he's able to read the questions and then answer them. All right, let me bring in my guest for this hour, Gerald Griggs. He's a criminal defense attorney, also represents some of the victims in the R. Kelly case. We'll be getting to that in just a quick minute. But Gerald, I want to ask you a quick question about what we're watching. I mean, you see a guy on the stand, and he's going through much of his background, and the judge made clear that he was going to give a lot of leeway to the defense, just as he had given that leeway to the prosecution. What is the value of providing all this background for the jury?
His defense team is trying to humanize him, give background into his life, kind of put in perspective the type of man that he is, the things that he's done over the course of his life, and the love that he has for the women in his life. So I think they're trying to humanize him, but they do need to kind of rein this testimony in. It seems to be meandering and wandering off, and I'm afraid you may lose the jury in a lot of this if you don't start pinpointing the points that you want him to hit.
I think that's a fair point, because as I'm listening to him, he's going off, and you'll hear objections for narrative. And basically what that means for our viewers is that you can't just go off on an answer. They'll ask you a question. You can't just go off ad nauseum on an answer. You have to sort of work through it with the questions. Actually, hold on, Gerald. I think they're going through an argument in the courtroom. Let me take you back into the courtroom live.
I originally had that we left at 3:30 on both Wednesday and Thursday.
That's what the.
Pardon? So Thursday we're leaving at 3:30. So let me say that I think that sometimes at the beginning of an examination of a witness, it's useful, particularly in this instance, it's useful to get your bearings, get used to testifying, and sometimes easy questions are a good way to start. But tell me all the places you went in the van during your honeymoon is not, that's stretching it. So let's keep it a little bit tighter than that, and that is any part of the story that is going to illuminate an actual defense or a refutation of the people's case, or something that would reduce the credibility of a witness presented by the people, that's fine. But I just want to give you that suggestion. Now, is there anything else for me to consider?
Two quick issues.
Yeah.
First issue is the issue with the juror on August 19th.
We'll get to it. I will see how we're doing.
Okay. The second issue, Your Honor, is I would like the court to indicate for the record, because the Court of Appeal is going to have a naked transcript, but they're not going to have what the court has, and that would be that not only is Mr. Durst not showing any issues relating to competence, etc., his memory, the way he responds, his expressions, in every way, he is not only testifying with what appears to be complete command, he's got a substantially better memory and recall than the memory expert just testified. So I just want to make sure that this is...
He can't help himself.
Is that gratuitous? I mean,
No, it's not gratuitous.
Here's our witness here, and that's completely unfair for you to say that, but I will agree with you, though. I made an extensive record that there's no reason this witness could not testify. That every confidence that he would be able to testify clearly and intelligently as he is doing now. That's a sufficient record. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
will the court provide us with a number that we should call tomorrow to this, we're supposed to work?
Yeah, so tomorrow, Mr. Durst has waived his presence in writing in open court. I've received that. You're welcome to be here or to phone in. The policy of this court is to encourage remote appearances. I want to have the jury instructions ready. We've got about 10 paragraphs at issue. I have sent out my 11th draft of these instructions. I hope to conclude with our 12th draft and final draft tomorrow.
And we'll be calling in then, Your Honor.
That's very good. Our judicial assistant will give you the number you may call.
Does that mean will you be here, Your Honor? Or?
I will be here. We're going to be on the record.
Oh, okay.
Your Honor, if we do decide to come, may we be more casual, or?
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
And what time are you on?
9 o'clock. Actually, can you make it you want to do 8:30?
Well, we can do whatever time the court wants.
9 o'clock's fine.
Okay. And we just need the number then, Your Honor?
Yes, Jay will give it to you. All right, anything else before
Thank you, Your
I
Honor.
recess? All right, Department 1 is adjourned.
All right, so Judge Mark Wyndham rings the bell. That means it's the end of the day. As you saw, there are a couple of housekeeping matters that they're going to discuss. But also, he was telling the defense that, I'm giving you latitude, but not that much latitude. They were asking questions about where they went in a van on their honeymoon. He said, I'm not going to let you go that far. So try to keep your questions pointed and directed towards dealing with some witnesses that took the stand for the state, et cetera, et cetera. Let me bring back in my guest, Gerald Griggs. He's a criminal defense attorney. And I think that was the right thing for the judge to do. Earlier on, he had told the defense, hey, I'm going to give you latitude. I'm going to let you develop your case. But now, let's be a little more directed in the questions that we ask. Have them mean something. Have them go towards something that was presented in the state's case. I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually you give a lot of latitude when the witness is getting comfortable being on the witness stand. But it seemed in this case, they were letting him wander all around the courtroom with his narrative that didn't seem to tie in any issue in this case. So I think the judge's ruling and admonition to both parties, but particularly the defense, to tighten it up was appropriate in this case. They need to get to a issue that shows a defense or that disrupts or dispels the evidence was put forward by the state.
And I think it was the right thing to do, going back to what you said earlier. I think going off on all these tangents, you could certainly lose the jury. But here's my question for you, Gerald. Once, the state put on an elaborate case, okay? It went on over months. We saw almost 40, I think it was 43 witnesses, something along that line. But now that we have Durst on the stand, things really shift. It really becomes about Durst, does it not? That it really depends on whether this jury buys his story. And if they do, then he has a chance. If they don't, then he's in trouble.
Absolutely. Anytime that you put your client on the stand, it comes down to their performance on the stand and whether or not the jury believes them. If they make one misstep, if they make one false statement, your case is over. So, the government went through an elaborate amount of time putting together their case, but now they get an opportunity to show the jury the true nature of this individual, and that could be very, very dangerous for a defendant. So, it's always a crapshoot to decide whether or not to put your client up. Of course, the client has the ultimate decision. In this particular case, they're just fleshing it out whether or not he's going to be a good witness. The judge was talking about he's clearly able to articulate his points. He has memory recall, so he's going to have to convince this jury that he's innocent. And of course, you don't have that burden at any given time, but anytime you put your client up, they're looking at your client to see how they assess him.
Yeah, there was some acrimony between the defense and Durst as to whether he would take the stand. My understanding was the defense attorneys didn't want him to take the stand, but of course Robert Durst wanted to. He is on the stand now, and really it's up to him and his performance. All right, Gerald, stand by. We're going to take a quick break right now. Coming up, the much-anticipated trial of R. Kelly has begun. We'll get you the latest and some interesting information about the R&B singer's appearance inside the New York Federal Courthouse today. And an attorney for several of the accusers is here with us. You just saw him, so stay with us right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. Jury selection is underway in New York for the federal case against R&B singer R. Kelly. Now, this is 2 years after he was first indicted. He's accused of racketeering and sex trafficking. R. Kelly denies all of the charges. All right, joining us now from New York outside the federal courthouse in Brooklyn, Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae. Julia, thank you so much for being with me on the show tonight. First and foremost, what's the latest from the courtroom?
Michael, the latest is that we have cleared the first round of jury selection. There was a pool of about 37 potential jurors who came into the courtroom. About 13 of them were excused, and the rest are going to come back later once the next pool tomorrow gets questioned by this court. So right now we're in the middle of jury selection, and I talked to the defense attorneys at the end of the day. They said they don't expect it to take very long, maybe another day or two. So things could be wrapping up with jury selection selection and then moving to opening statements in this trial.
All right, I heard R. Kelly was in the courtroom today. What was his demeanor like?
He was in the courtroom. He looked different than we have seen in a lot of hearing footage that happened probably before the pandemic, is when he was last live in court. He is fully shaven, clean cut. He has a little bit of a goatee, but not much facial hair. He has no hair on the top of his head, which isn't something we've seen recently from him when he's in the courtroom. I can tell you he looked to be a little nervous, very thoughtful, pensive about what was going on. There were moments where he did look at the jury, especially when he was introducing himself. But during the time that they were being questioned by the judge, the way he was seated in the courtroom, he was only showing these potential jurors his profile. He was sitting on the corner of the defense table. So his attorneys were looking dead on at this jury pool, but he looked off to the side. So really, unless he wanted to intentionally look at them, they got the side of his face for most of that process.
Julia, can you give us a quick primer on the charges he's facing?
He's facing 9 counts, and one of those counts is for racketeering. This is in federal court, and that racketeering count involves 14 other acts or alleged offenses that go under that. So really a litany of charges, most of them involving sexual abuse, exploitation of children, forced labor, violations of a federal code called the Mann Act, which prohibits the transporting of individuals, women in particular, for the purpose of sex. So many things that he is facing, and it all involves 6 Jane Does as far as those counts that he is officially charged with here in New York. But we know there are pending cases in Illinois and in Minnesota.
All right, stand by for a second, Julia. I want to bring in our guest for this hour. Still with me, criminal defense attorney Gerald Griggs. He represents several of R. Kelly's accusers. Gerald, let me start by asking, tell us a little bit about who you're representing and what their position is right now on this particular case.
Yes, I represent several family members as well as accusers in this case. Many of them are related to the Illinois case, but have been tangentially mentioned in the New York case. But they've been fighting for several years to get to this particular day. And it's good to hear that there's a brisk pace of jury selection. Usually jury selection can be drawn out in high-profile cases, but it seems as though from the reporting that it's moving briskly. If they believe they can get a jury within 2 to 3 days, we can start seeing the evidence come out. But many of my clients are eager to get an opportunity to relay what their life experience was with Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly and ultimately get to justice that they've been seeking for such a long time.
So if my understanding is correct, some of your clients will be taking the stand in this particular case, or do they have to wait for the Illinois case?
Most of them will have to wait for the Illinois case, but they are tangentially mentioned in the New York case. I'm not sure if the New York prosecutors are going to call them in this case, but I am sure that they will be called in the Illinois federal case.
So how are they feeling about the fact that he is being, or at least an attempt is being made to bring him to justice in New York? Clearly at some point that will happen in Illinois as well. But how are they feeling about this case right now?
It just strengthens their resolve that they are being heard. And this was all about protecting and hearing the voices of the accusers and the survivors and the family members that have been affected by Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly and the allegations that have been made for such a long time. So they're cautiously optimistic and hopeful. They want to make sure that their voices are heard, and they are seeing that the federal government as well as the state government is listening to them. And hopefully this jury will listen to them when they get their opportunity to speak.
Now, Julia, I want to go back to you quickly. In June, there was a complete changeover in the defense team. Not a lot of time to prepare for what's going on right now. How are they holding up today? How did they handle jury selection?
You know, today his new team, that's Deborah O'Canick, Nicole Blank-Becker and Thomas Farinella, they are out of Michigan, those last 2 attorneys. They fared well. They did ask the judge in the last week or so for a motion to delay this trial, also to dismiss it, and one that's filed again because we know the other attorneys on this case already filed a motion to dismiss that was denied. And there was some mention of a discovery issue that I heard the judge sounding a bit terse when she said, "Why are we still talking about discovery? All of that should have been turned over in February. So you can see that they're still working through some things, but they seem to be getting along great with their client, Robert Kelly. Some communication at the table, but for the most part, he's one of those defendants that doesn't seem very engaged in his litigation. It is jury selection, so not a lot going on right now, perhaps, that he wants to be involved in, but no paper in front of him. Of course, we know that he has said publicly that he is illiterate, so that was something that I noticed today watching him in the courtroom.
Now, Gerald, again, you represent a number of victims. Now, when I look at the accusations in this case, they are quite bizarre and really somewhat unbelievable. How would you characterize what was going on or what your victims went through?
We would characterize it exactly as the indictment characterized it. There was a criminal enterprise alleged for the purpose of transporting underage women for the purposes of sex. Many of the women that we've come into contact with, that we've interviewed, and some of which that we represent, have detailed this over a number of years. So yes, there was bizarre conduct going on, and we believe that it was criminal conduct. And so we are glad, again, that the federal government has stepped in. They've charged them with violation of the RICO statute, violations of the Mann Act, and we are hopeful that all of the evidence will come forward. It's been a long journey. It's coming to a conclusion, hopefully very soon, but we just want to make sure that their voices are elevated.
Now, I know you represent the Savage family. There was some controversy regarding their daughter. There was difficulty getting contact with her, didn't know where she was for a time being, even after he was arrested. Was there a happy ending to that story?
No, currently there's not a happy ending. You know, they've been in some contact with Joycelyn Savage, and they're continuing to try to make direct contact separate and apart from Mr. Kelly. But they are really the impetus for why we are even here. And they are some of the people that have organized and galvanized the public to have pressure on this case. But hopefully, after Mr. Kelly has gone through his trial, they will be able to reunite with their daughter. We believe that she is still under the care, custody, and control of people associated with Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, and we will continue to push towards that reunification.
So that particular victim or alleged victim, you still don't have direct contact with her?
Not continuous direct contact. We've had several phone conversations. They've attempted to make direct contact at several residents, as well as during the previous court hearings. But again, it's been very difficult to get direct contact with her separate and apart from Mr. Kelly or anyone associated with Mr. Kelly.
All right, Julie, you touched on it a little earlier. We expect jury selection to continue tomorrow. What else can we expect? And how long do we expect this trial to last?
Well, we expect it to last about 4 weeks. That's what Judge Ann Donnelly has been telling the potential jurors. And here's a look at some of the details that she also let this team know, the two parties, about what they are trying to get as far as the timing and the number of potential jurors. First of all, opening statements. That is going to start on August 18th, regardless of when jury selection ends. So if it does end tomorrow or the next day, there will still be that wait time until Wednesday of next week. She's looking for a jury or a qualified jury pool of 40, and then these attorneys will then use their strikes on that pool and get it down to 12 jurors and 6 alternates that will ultimately be on this panel.
All right, Julia and Gerald, quickly, what would justice look like for your victims or alleged victims in this case?
Justice would look like Robert Sylvester Kelly being held accountable, families being reunited, and a substantial prison sentence. But we are focused on elevating those voices. Those voices need to be heard. They need to be the ultimate determinants of what justice looks like in this case.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Gerald Griggs. Truly appreciate you taking out the time to be with me tonight. Julia Janae as well. I'm Michael Ayala. It has been a pleasure being with you. Coming up next, closing arguments, of course. Benny Palantan takes a look at the biggest headlines in today's legal news and a look back at Robert Durst taking the stand in his own defense. So keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.